Listen, my son. You must move on and create a better future. Create a new age and lead this land there.
This land is mine.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Not Out channel. Welcome back to the series where we're counting down the top Dynasty Warriors characters as of the latest game. Coming in at number 5, starting off the top 5, we have the Ice Cold Cao Pi. Cao Pi is Cao Cao's son and successor. Like his father, he was a reputed intellectual who calculated his plans thoroughly. However, Cao Pi was unpopular even with his retainers, allegedly due to his foul and taboo behavior. He found it way by forcing Emperor Jian to abdicate his throne. He is Zenji's second husband, and Cao Rui is his heir. Before we jump into how Cao Pi has changed since his playable debut back in Dynasty Warriors 5, let's take a look at the popularity polls to see why Cao Pi starts off our list for the top 5 most popular Dynasty Warriors characters within the series. In the first popularity poll, Cao Pi breaks the top 15 at number 14 with 1,554 votes out of a total of over 75,000 votes. In the second popularity poll, he's also going to hit the top 5 at number 5. And then in my personal ranking, he's going to drop back down to the 15th position. So relatively high rankings for Cao Pi in all of the polls because Cao Pi, I believe, is a well-liked character and he's a pretty fun character to play with. I really was drawn to his weapon style. His personality is okay, the way he looks is awesome, and his story in the games it's relatively okay. And we'll deep dive into all of that when we get to those sections of the videos. But Cao Pi, for me, the only reason he's up so high is because of his weapon style. I always found it fascinating. It's an extension of a longer weapon, if that makes sense. In some of the games, he doesn't have the dual blade that he originally starts out with, but that weapon itself is pretty interesting to play with because it has similar properties to spears and staves where it's long enough when it's connected to have a nice AoE, but then when you pull it apart, it has quick and effective attacks to use, which makes it a really unique weapon. And I just found it to be a very intriguing weapon. Now, before we talk about Cao Pi's changes within the game, talk a little bit about Cao Pi for people who don't know. So Cao Pi was the first emperor of the state of Cao Wei in the Three Kingdoms period of China. He was the second son of Cao Cao, and he was often in the presence of court officials in order to gain their support. He was mostly in charge of defense at the start of his career, and after the defeat of Cao Cao's rival Yuan Shao at the Battle of Guandu, he took Yuan Shi's widow Lady Zhen as a concubine, but in 221 Lady Zhen died and Guo Nuong became empress. At the beginning of Cao Pi's reign, he would force Emperor Jian to abdicate in his favor, after which he proclaimed himself emperor and established the state of Cao Wei. Cao Pi continued the wars against the states of Shu Han and Eastern Wu. Unlike his father, Cao Pi concentrated most of his efforts on internal administration rather than on waging wars against his rivals, but Cao Pi was a son who closely followed his father's expectations, but unlike his father, he speaks in a bitter tone and is more condescending. Though a loyal and respectful son, he is also determined to surpass his father's image and realize his own dreams. Like I said, Cao Pi was very different from Cao Cao in terms he wanted something very different from Cao Cao's vision. In some of the games, it's like a darker trend for Cao Pi. Like in the first game he's playable, it's definitely a lot darker and more like ice cold kind of persona. In the later games, he kind of warms up a little bit, I guess. You know, he's not as cold, but he still has that very firm grasp on what he wants for the land. Like he doesn't ever sway from that personality of when Cao Cao passes away, Cao Pi is going to do whatever it takes to make his vision come to life, regardless of what, his father wanted while, he was around. And to this end, he remained apathetic to the other two kingdoms and was unimpressed by their final efforts to oppose him. Any gentleness or caring feelings he has are usually reserved for his wife, Zenji, whom he was instantly entranced with upon their first meeting at the Battle of Guandu, which we'll talk a little bit more about towards his significant battles. But Cao Pi is a very interesting character. His stories within the games are relatively short if you're going around the historical routes, and his content's actually a lot smaller than I thought would be for the character, even in the hypothetical situations. But he's a character that's very interesting. I've never really been subscribed to his kind of personality. I always found it to be very entitled, almost like a spoiled brat at times, because like in Dynasty Warriors 5, his personality was just so pretentious. It's hard to get past it because Cao Cao, up until whatever point Cao Pi becomes the ruler, builds the kingdom of Wei from, Cao Cao's pretty much, he didn't really come from anything. He just built it on his own. Cao Pi inherits that, and there's nothing wrong with having ambition and being passionate about it and, doing the best moving forward. But Cao Pi was it was just so pretentious about it that it was just a personality I couldn't really get behind. But like I said, I think he genuinely respected Cao Cao. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the relationship section. I just think that he had a different vision for the land, and the way he went about expressing that was very egotistical on his part, because like if Cao Cao didn't lay the foundations for him, it could be argued that Cao Pi wouldn't even be in a position to rule really anything unless, he had the ambition himself to become something. But his personality within the games, it varies. He still, again, maintains that ice coldness in most of the games, and he has a very stoic presence about himself. I admire that. I don't mind having, that stoicness, but I think he just takes it over a little bit too much and ends up being a little pompous and pretentious, like I've already mentioned. But I can't hate him too much because I really like his weapon style. It's super fun to play as, and the ice imbuements that he has with his weapon is really cool. And since I'm already talking about it, let's go ahead and jump into how Cao Pi has changed within the games. We're going to start off with his weapon style. So like I said, Cao Pi within the games has usually a dual blade or a dual sword. So the dual blade is the one that connects, and he can use it as a one-handed weapon in a sense. The dual swords is when he has the sword in both of his hands. So in Dynasty Warriors 5 and Dynasty Warriors 8, he has the dual blade. Dynasty Warriors 7 and 9, he has the dual sword. And then Dynasty Warriors 6, he gets cloned with just a regular sword. So the moveset with the dual blade was just so intriguing. It was very different. He had moments where he could just use it as a one-handed weapon, but there are moments when he could pull it apart and use it as a dual sword weapon. I just thought that was really cool. It's a very unique thing. None of the other characters really has a weapon like that, and I was always drawn to that kind of style. The dual swords were okay. When I was originally playing him through Dynasty Warriors 9, I was a little conflicted because I was like, why isn't he putting his swords together and using it as a dual blade? But that's because it's actually noted to be a dual sword. Even though in the beginning of his Musou attacks for Dynasty Warriors 9, he does connect it together and uses them together as a dual blade. So it's kind of confusing on whether or not what kind of weapon that is. Hopefully they just stick with him having the dual blade, because I think it's a very good weapon for Cao Pi. And like I already mentioned, the Musou attacks in all the games was pretty good for him. I like the ice imbuement for him. It's really nice. Well, one, it's a good representation of his personality, and it also shows the inheritance that he has from Cao Cao, because Cao Cao also gets the ice imbuement in the later games. So it's kind of cool to see that double entendre with his Musou attacks. I think my favorite one is probably going to be the second Musou one, where he like calls upon a bunch of ice crystals and kind of shoots them forward. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, not much else to really say about his weapon style. Dynasty Warriors 6, he just had the basic sword, very basic combos, but I prefer Cao Pi to have the dual blade. That's a weapon that I really enjoy using. It's very aesthetically pleasing, and I can't really complain about his weapon style at all. Now moving on to his appearance, Cao Pi's appearance within the games is actually pretty badass. Again, going with that ice cold personality, the stoicness, the very serious kind of character that he is. It's expressed within his facial features and what he wears. He's a very sharp, cool, collected, calm character, and I can really get behind the way he looks and what that represents with his personality. I don't mind that at all. I think that's really cool. I love calm, collected people. I just think he takes it a step too far when he becomes ice cold and arrogant and pretentious, like I've already mentioned. But the way Cao Pi's looked in all the games has always been really, really cool. Definitely another draw for me for the character, for wanting to play him. Like, whoa, first of all, he's Cao Cao's son, and second of all, he looks pretty badass. He looks pretty slick. Let me see what he's about. My favorite look for him is probably going to be Dynasty Warriors 7. I just like the white look. It's a very clean look. It's a little bit sharper than Dynasty Warriors 6, but super clean, super cool look. But I don't mind the way he looks when he has the blue on as well. Now moving on to his voice acting. His voice acting within most of the games is pretty good. Starting off with Dynasty Warriors 5.
Well, that's more your problem than it is mine.
And then Dynasty Warriors 6 through 8 is his best one.
So you wait until my father is away to say this?
And then he gets an interesting one in Dynasty Warriors 9.
That is why we're friends.
So the only reason I say it's interesting in Dynasty Warriors 9 because in some of the cutscenes, it's noticeably different.
There is no need to suddenly be so formal.
I don't know if they use like a different voice actor for Sao P within Dynasty, like 2 different voice actors, but there's a couple cutscenes where he sounds a little different, and it just doesn't sound good at all. Now the normal, quote unquote, normal way he sounds in Dynasty Warriors 9 is fine for him. I think it actually fits him pretty well, and I can't complain about the way he sounds in any of the games. Dynasty Warriors 628 was the best one for him, but Dynasty Warriors 9 was not that far behind. Dynasty Warriors 5 played more into that icy, very cold-hearted kind of character, except when he's again talking to like Zenji and expressing his, feelings for her. But the voice acting for Sao P is pretty good. Can't complain too much about it. Now let's move on to his significant battles, his relationships, and his death. So his significant battles, he doesn't really have that many. Now in the games, they're gonna include him within some battles so that he has some playability and everything. But in terms of like significantly adding to a battle, he doesn't really do much in any of the battles. The only real battle where he kind of has a significant moment is the Battle of Guandu, because that's where he meets Zenji. But other than that, there's nothing else really that he does battle-wise that is significant to him. The only significant event that I guess was made into a battle in Dynasty Warriors 9 was the abdication of the current emperor. Because he had resistance to that, there was a little mini battle that you had to do and fight off some of the emperor's supporters. But other than that, he doesn't really have anything else. I mean, maybe the Battle of Hefei or Hefei Castle when he's going against Sun Quan. But even then, thinking about like their relationship, there's not really one there. Sao P doesn't really register Sun Quan or Liu Bei or even Liu Shan as worthy rivals. So it's really hard to say if there's a relationship there at all. I don't think Sao P really registers them as a threat. Even when he's losing, even in his cutscenes where he's beaten, he's still maintaining that smug coolness that Sao P's really known to have, and you don't really see him getting affected by any of the other rulers during this time. But Sao P is a very interesting character. He just doesn't play a big role in any of the significant battles. The biggest thing that he's done is becoming and establishing the Wei Empire. So that's a really unique and commendable thing to do as a character because nobody else has done it to this point. But he was the one to basically end the Han Dynasty and almost in a way create the Three Kingdoms period by creating the Wei Empire. Now moving on to his relationships, he doesn't have many within the games, but he does have a few that I want to talk about. His most significant one, Zenji. The reason I say that is because this is probably the only character he doesn't have any sort of hostility or negative emotions towards. Even if he's putting on like a cold shoulder or whatever, he's still a very attentive husband when it comes to his wife. I wouldn't say to the point where it's like he's like trying to protect her like all the time or being like that kind of person, but very attentive and in moments of private or when he's able to confidently confide in his wife how he actually feels about her. There is a genuine love there that he has for his wife. You can see that in the earlier games too when she's protecting Sao P from danger and Sao P is in his own way complimenting her for being the way that she is. I would say it's a very genuine relationship. Like I said, maybe he does treat her with the cold shoulder, or he gets in his own like personality sometimes. He gets a little pretentious at times, and that maybe indirectly affects Zenji. But I don't think he does anything like that on purpose to like upset her or negatively affect her. If anything, it does the opposite thing, where Zenji, she's almost like, this is what you want from me. Like, this is the kind of wife that you want. I'm going to show you that I can keep up with you on the battlefield. So pretty good relationship that he has with Zenji, very close relationship. And then I would think the second closest that he has is going to be with Cao Cao. It's a very obvious relationship because it's his son, and within the game, Cao Cao only wants the best for Sao P. He wants him to become pretty much his own man, do whatever he wants, and become the best that you can. And I think Sao P is aware of that. And I think that's why Sao P is able to confidently throw away his father's ideal and build a land of his own. Not saying that if, Cao Cao was against that, that would deter Sao P from becoming who he was. I think Sao P's confidence and early personality was really built upon watching his dad establish what he wanted within the land and succeed really well. So very close relationship with him and his father. I like their relationship. It is a little weird at times. Sao P doesn't go overboard with it. He's not like an overbearing, entitled child, but he takes it with such confidence that it comes across as pretentious at times. I mean, I gotta respect the confidence. Kind of just able to step up into his role and become the Wei Emperor and decide immediately what he wants to do and what he wants to become and the vision that he has for the land. So I gotta commend that for the character. Now moving on to his relationship with Sima Yi, they had moments of trust, moments of dissent, moments of negativity negativity or whatever. Especially Dynasty Warriors 5 when Cao Pi was more of that pretentious character. I mean, the cutscene, dude, he has his freaking sword to his neck, and he's like, I don't give a crap about my dad's dreams. This is my land now. But I think within the later games, it develops more into a genuine trust and friendship between the two characters. I would say their minds work similar together, and how they want to achieve things. They go about it very manipulating and cunning, and I think that's where they get along pretty well, because there are times when Sima Yi is surprised of the answers that Cao Pi is giving him, and it actually impresses him. It allows Sima Yi to follow Cao Pi faithfully, knowing that he's not following an imbecile. So pretty close relationship that he has with Sima Yi. They're two very ice cold characters, so it's cool to see them get along. Now moving on to his last relationship with Cao Shu. Pretty close relationship in Dynasty Warriors 9. It's not as close as the other three, but it's still there. They're both, you know, family members, and they get along pretty well. Cao Pi can rely on Cao Shu implicitly, and he says it multiple times that, you know, Cao Shu's honesty is a very valuable asset to Cao Pi, and he can rely on Cao Shu to get things done. And, you know, just having someone like that Cao Pi can implicitly trust probably lifts a little bit of burden and stress off of him when he's relying on Cao Shu to get things done. Cao Shu does have his moments where he messes up, or he feels like he's inferior to Cao Pi. Cao Pi still shows a little bit of compassion when he's consoling Cao Shu, and he's just trying to remind him of his worth to Cao Pi. I genuinely like their relationship. I like to see Cao Pi having more of a influential type of relationship with another character versus a cold, calculating, not really caring about other people kind of thing. And that's probably why he didn't really have many relationships, because he has that ice cold exterior. He just doesn't really care about other people. He's just there to push his own ideals, push his own dream, make his dream become a reality. And he wants to do that by any means necessary. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have for Cao Pi here, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. He's a character that I enjoy to play with because of his weapon style. The way he looks has always been really cool. But his personality for me is not really my forte. Not really a character that I would get behind personally. I just like, the dual blades are awesome. It's just one of my favorite weapons. I think it's a really cool weapon. It fits Cao Pi pretty well. And of course, like I said, the ice imbuement with his weapon style is really cool. But yeah, that's all I really have for him. Let me know what you guys think about him down below. If you guys like him, if you guys use him, what do you guys think about him? Just let me know down below. But that's all I have for the video, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone.
祝福你。